Verizon is finding, and they say, well, hey, people they like being able to pick and choose what they want to watch. So let's see how this experiment works. Oh, good for them. We'll see how it works. But I don't get into all this reality programming stuff. And I know that there is some reality programming that I do watch. What is that? The fish tank thing. Sometimes I'll catch, and the Treehouse Master. Sometimes I'll catch that. Every once in a while, I'll catch the Kilchers on Last Alaska Frontier, whatever it is. The Kilcher clan. Again, I think they're nuts. I don't know who'd want to, live the way they live up there in Alaska, but evidently enough people do. So that type of stuff. Sometimes I'll watch, but I don't. I've never watched any of those Survivor things like Naked and Afraid or Naked and whatever. I'm still trying to get over the fact that Mad Men is done on AMC, but done forever. But it is what it is. And speaking of the icons, if you will, in TV land, we have some sad news to share with all of you, and that is that Bert of Burt's Bees has passed away at the age of 80. Bert Shavitz, co-founder and namesake of Burt's Bees, passed away. He's a namesake of the natural personal care company, Burt's Bees. He passed away at 80. He died of respiratory complications up in Maine and was surrounded by family and friends. He sold honey from a roadside stand, pulled over one day in '84 to pick up a hitchhiker, Roxanne Quimbley. The two hit it off, and Quimbley started making candles from Shavitz beeswax. Now, if you ever, I watched a good portion of that documentary on Bert, and he never really says anything bad about Roxanne, but you can see his facial and body language and expressions. He really didn't have anything nice to say about her either. But Bert went on to, he was the goodwill ambassador for the company, Burt's Bees, and they were sending him all over the place, all over the world. But he passed away at the age of 80, and he was kind of, he's kind of a hoarder. Well, at least that's what I got from the documentary about him. He has a brother, and he's totally different from his brother. But he lived his life the way he wanted to live his life. Good for him. But Bert will be missed. Gone at the age of 80. There was, in the wonderful land that is known as Chicago, over the weekend, the holiday weekend, they lost something like 9 people, and nearly 60 people were wounded by gunfire over the weekend. Now, this is a gun-free zone city run by none other than Rahm Emanuel, a wonderful Obama liberal. But you hear this type of story, and it's sad. And what you're not hearing is that the public in Chicago is starting to shout that they want their gun rights back. They want to be able to protect themselves, because obviously they had these massive amounts of shootings, and there was a 30% increase of police coverage on the streets over the weekend, and yet 9 people were killed and some 60 were wounded. Yeah, again, stuff that you can't make up. Just stuff you can't make up because, well, yeah, it is what it is, I suppose. But yeah, you can't, people don't have a right to defend themselves in the city of Chicago. They just have to sit there and take it, whatever happens to them. And if you live, then you can, be happy that you lived. But otherwise, you just have to take it. Out in California, from the MontereyHerald.com, Public Utilities Commission approves big changes in state's electricity rate system. Now, something else I've been warning you people about reducing your dependence on power generated from outside of your home. California regulators adopted a controversial plan late last week, Friday to be exact. Of course, it's Friday when everybody's thinking about 4th of July weekend. That this controversial plan will increase electricity bills for those who use the least amount of power. Heeding the requests of utility companies, but angering consumer advocates and residents who say the poor can't afford it. Screw the poor. They're not paying it themselves anyway. They're probably getting, some sort of government assistance to help pay for their energy bills. How about the poor middle class who don't qualify for this type of government assistance? Now, the new system, approved on a 5-0 vote by the Public Utilities Commission, has more modest impacts than earlier versions of the overhaul. It will raise rates for about 1/3 of ratepayers by about $5 a month. A smaller portion and less money than was initially expected. It also potentially reduces rates for the biggest electricity customers of PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric. Utility companies can submit rate proposals to the PUC based on the new system in September, and consumers could see changes in their bills as early as November. So if you use a little bit less electricity, well, your bill's going to go up. And, this is the same thing that's happening with, petrol, gasoline. Because cars are getting, so efficient, and people are not needing to purchase as much gas. Combine that with they're not making as many trips as they used to because gas is kind of expensive. You have a lot of states and the Fed talking about, well, maybe we need to raise the gas tax. Well, why? If it's to get people to drive less, they're already doing that. Or to use less gas, they're already doing that. Yeah, well, we're not getting as much revenue as we used to. Oh, so now you just want to... so these people, they have to buy these expensive vehicles in order to save a few bucks, and you want to take that savings away. For them doing, it's the right thing, right? It's the right thing to do to buy efficient vehicles, but, don't save too much. And for people who like the electric cars, well, now they just want to start charging you by the mile. Hey, we're going to put these devices on your car. As if they can't just tell by the odometer, but they want to put these tracking devices on everybody's car so they can tell how many miles you're driving every year, so they can charge you by the mile. And this is it's insane. So when you use less, you have to pay more. Now, based on government regulation, not based on the market. Based on government regulation. If you use less energy, you're going to have to pay more for it. Well, because, government can't do with less money. Well, if they say, well, Rod, it's still, if it costs $10 to for every half mile of road, it's still going to cost $10 for every half mile of road, whether the gas is, $2 a gallon or $5 a gallon, right? Well, no, because how is it going to be the same if fewer people are driving over it? Aha. Aha. So if there's less traffic, how is it costing the same? How is the road decaying at the same rate? So are you telling me that they're building in obsolescence based on time and not traffic? When we were used to be told, well, it was the traffic that did it. Traffic. Heavy cars, heavy trucks. There's more traffic, the more pounding the roads take. So now if there's fewer miles driven on that stretch of highway, and it's still deteriorating in the same amount of time or sooner, what's the cause? Oh, I'm not supposed to ask that question. I see. So if I decide to put a bunch of solar panels on my roof and put a wind turbine in my backyard, but I still have to be connected to the grid, even though I don't need any electricity from the grid? Well, yeah, but now I have to pay every month to be on the grid. Yeah, but I don't use the grid. So it still costs money to have those lines going to your house. Well, that's why I want to disconnect the lines. Well, you can't do that. Well, why? Because the public utility needs to be able to pay for that line. Oh, so I have to pay for it whether I use it or not, is what you're saying. Well, yes, now you got it. So it isn't about demand anymore. It's about just government regulation dictating that somebody's got to pay for something even if you don't want it. Plain and simple. But again, you're not supposed to ask that kind of question. Why do I have to pay for something I don't use? Well, you pay for education because, even if you don't have kids that are in the system, you're still getting the benefits from it. Really? The kids are turning out stupid. They don't even know who Susan B. Anthony is. How am I benefiting from a kid being that dumb? Look, they can't find a job because, they're too stupid. They're not very well educated. They don't have any training and skills. So now I got to pay for them, via welfare packages for the rest of their life. And then their kids and their kids' kids. So generational welfare. I'm paying for stupidity. Well, yeah, that's the way it is. So, did you also know that this week, an iconic movie just got old, and you're probably just got old. Back to the Future turned 30 this past weekend. I remember seeing it in the theater. First run. And now it's 30 years later. Welcome to the future. Although, I don't think it looks anything like, it was Hilldale did. But it is what it is, folks. We will be back tomorrow. That's what that sound means. Till then, I'm Rod Eccles. This has been the Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.